Starting with updates from the war in Israel, explosions flared around Gaza as Israel launched airstrikes for the seventh day. The strikes are the most intense Israel has ever directed on Gaza. It began after Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israel on Saturday. The United Nations has said that Israel informed it that 1.1 million Palestinians in northern Gaza should relocate. This comes after Israel earlier vowed to launch a ground offensive in the coming days. Israeli tanks have been deployed at the border with Gaza. Meanwhile, an army helicopter flew overhead near the northern border with Lebanon. This comes as violence in the region escalates. Israel has vowed to annihilate Hamas that rules the Gaza Strip. Violence has also risen at Israel's border with Lebanon as both countries continue to attack each other. Israel's parliament has approved Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's emergency unity government. It underlines the suspension of normal political rules during one of the most serious crises in Israel's history. Yesterday, Netanyahu struck an agreement with the centrist opposition party leader Benny Gantz for the formation of the new unity government. Netanyahu also agreed to form a war cabinet that seeks to wipe off Hamas. Members of the Israeli parliament traded barbs at each other on Thursday. This was after one of the members called for peace regarding the ongoing Israel-Hamas war. It was interrupted by a member of Netanyahu's Likud party who called for revenge. The lawmaker said, and I quote, "We will revenge and we will destroy them." Hamas has called on Palestinians to rise up in protest of Israel's strikes on Gaza. The group has urged Palestinians to march to East Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound and stay there throughout Friday. Friday is when Muslims hold large weekly prayers. Hamas also urged Palestinians to clash with Israeli forces in the West Bank. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Jordan. He is there to meet King Abdullah and Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Blinken also plans to visit key American allies like Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates in the coming days. Earlier in the day, Blinken met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog. This is after he met Netanyahu during his visit to the West Asian nation. Blinken assured Herzog that Washington was on Israel's side. He said, and I quote, "I am here quite simply with one message, and that is the United States stands with Israel today, tomorrow, every day." Meanwhile, Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas held a meeting with Jordan's King Abdullah in the capital city of Amman. They called on steps to prevent a deterioration in the Gaza. Officials also condemned what they called Israel's collective punishment of Palestinians. Leaders also called on the international community to pressure Israel to allow humanitarian corridors into Gaza. China's special Middle East envoy has held phone calls with Israeli and Palestinian officials. They discussed the escalation in the Israel-Hamas conflict. China said that it is saddened by the intensification of the conflict and is deeply concerned about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. The envoy also called for peace talks and an immediate ceasefire in the region. Israel and the White House have condemned comments by former US President Donald Trump over the war. In one of his recent speeches, Trump criticized his once close ally Benjamin Netanyahu. He said that Netanyahu wasn't prepared to handle the Hamas massacres in Israel. In another remark, Trump praised Lebanon's Hezbollah group, which has been attacking Israel on its northern border. The White House has said that the number of US citizens who have died in the ongoing war has gone up to 27. Meanwhile, 14 people are still unaccounted for. The White House has also said that it will arrange for charter flights for Americans wanting to leave Israel. The flights will start as early as today. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said that Israel has the right to defend itself. Trudeau condemned Hamas for its weekend attack and for taking civilians hostage. Canada has also announced that it is supplying an initial $7 million in humanitarian assistance to Israel and Gaza. It is also deploying a unit of officials who are trained to help in such times of emergencies. Canada has started evacuating citizens from the war-torn country of Israel. The first Canadian military plane carrying 128 people departed from Tel Aviv on Thursday. A second plane with 153 people will depart later. Evacuees on the board. The first flight described the chaos that unfolded after Hamas's attack. More than 1,300 Israelis have died in the war so far. Israel's ambassador to Japan has said that Tokyo should be vigilant with the aid it extends to Palestine. He has urged Japan to take cognizance of what Hamas did to Israel. Japan provides assistance to Palestinians through various schemes. In the last decade, Japan's assistance to Palestine totaled a little over $2 billion. Meanwhile, Japan is readying to repatriate its citizens from Israel. It will use a chartered flight to transport Japanese citizens out of Israel. The first flight will depart from Tel Aviv on Saturday. According to Japan's Foreign Ministry office, approximately 1,300 Japanese citizens are currently stranded in the war zone. Thailand's Prime Minister has met with Israeli Ambassador Orna Sagiv. He urged him to help facilitate the evacuation of Thai citizens back to their homeland. Almost 6,000 Thai citizens have registered to return home. The Prime Minister has said evacuating them might take time as they are scattered in various places across the region. The death toll of Thai citizens in Israel has risen to 21. 14 have been wounded and 16 were taken hostage. Israelis in Tel Aviv held a candle vigil on Thursday. They held mourning for the victims of the Hamas attack. People gathered around a fountain in central Tel Aviv where the vigil was held. One of them said that each candle represented each victim of the attack. New York officials said that the state is on high alert. This is ahead of the global pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian demonstrations planned for Friday. Officials have said that the New York Police Department will send additional resources to synagogues and mosques around the city. This is to prevent attacks on any houses of worship. Around 2,000 people gathered in Germany's Munich city for a joint vigil on Thursday. They were there to show solidarity with Israel. A minute's silence was held and a rendition of the Israeli national anthem was played. The vigil was also attended by the Bavarian Premier Markus Söder. French police used tear gas and water cannons to break up a banned pro-Palestinian rally in Paris. Several hundred pro-Palestinian demonstrators gathered in central Paris in separate groups. This was despite a ban being put into place. French President Emmanuel Macron has urged people to remain united and refrain from bringing the Israel-Hamas conflict home. Moving to other political news, Steve Scalise has dropped out of the race for US Speaker as party division persists. Yesterday, Republicans in the House of Representatives nominated him to become their next Speaker. He was due to face a full vote in the House. However, Scalise has now withdrawn from the race and urged the party to unite and prioritize the country's needs over their personal agendas. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said that Russia expects military cooperation with Kyrgyzstan. Putin was in Kyrgyzstan's Bishkek on the occasion of a 2-decade anniversary of Russian airbase in the region. The Russian president will also attend a summit of the Commonwealth of Independent States. Vladimir Putin is visiting a foreign country for the first time after an arrest warrant was issued against him by the International Criminal Court. Thousands of Afghan families are living in tents after deadly earthquakes hit the region. Some have lost their homes, while some fear more quakes. Multiple earthquakes hit the Herat city of Afghanistan, causing widespread destruction. So far, more than 2,400 people have died and over 2,000 were injured. The people of New Zealand are all set to vote for their next Prime Minister. The voting for the general election of 2023 will take place tomorrow. Labour Party leader Chris Hipkins is hopeful of retaining his current position as the country's leader, while opposition leader Christopher Luxon, who is a political newcomer, is also a front-runner for the position. South Korea alleges that China has forcefully deported thousands of North Koreans. It has lodged a protest against the Chinese government. The stance comes after a report suggested that 600 North Koreans have been deported against their will. A representative said that this is regrettable, the situation is regrettable rather, and is against international norms. A Chinese spokesperson said, and I quote, "No such thing as so-called North Korean defectors in China." Moving to the Cricket World Cup in India, South Africa beat Australia by 134 runs in yesterday's match. The Proteas batted first and scored 311 runs in their innings. Quinton de Kock scored a century to help South Africa put up a steep total. Australian batters had no answers to South Africa's bowling attack. They were bowled out for 177 in the 40th over. After smashing a century last night, South Africa's Quinton de Kock has joined an elite list of batters for scoring back-to-back centuries in ODI World Cups. The South African keeper batter is now the 15th batter in the world to have achieved this feat. Other batters on the list that are still playing cricket are Shakib Al Hasan, Rohit Sharma, Kane Williamson and Johnny Bairstow. The Australian camp has raised an issue with the International Cricket Council over yesterday's match. This is over umpires ruled Australian batter Marcus Stoinis out after a DRS review. The review showed the ball hitting Stoinis' glove before being caught behind by South Africa's wicketkeeper. However, Australia say that Stoinis' hand that nicked the ball was not in contact with the bat as he had let go of the bat's grip. Australian skipper Pat Cummins says that his team is hurting after yesterday's loss to South Africa. The Aussies had a tough day on the pitch as Australian fielders dropped 5 catches. Yesterday's loss marks the first time that Australia have lost their first 2 World Cup matches since 1992. A big World Cup clash is in store for cricket fans tomorrow. South Asian giants India and Pakistan are all set to face each other in the Indian city of Ahmedabad. The two teams have arrived at the venue and have begun their respective practice sessions. Meanwhile, Pakistan batters say they are deploying at least 3 spin bowlers to the nets. This includes left-handed spinners so that Pakistani batters can get used to Indian bowler Kuldeep Yadav. Pakistan batter Mohammad Rizwan spent an extra hour in the nets practicing against spin bowling. Indian batter Shubman Gill is recovering well after suffering from dengue. Gill was seen padded up and batting in the nets in Ahmedabad city yesterday. There is still no clarity on whether Gill will be declared fit to play against Pakistan tomorrow. Pakistan Cricket Board's chief Zaka Ashraf is all set to meet the Board of Control for Cricket in India's chief Jai Shah. The two cricketing board presidents will meet ahead of the match between India and Pakistan, while Jai Shah is the secretary. The two chiefs are likely to discuss promoting cricket between the two nations and taking cricketing ties further. Pakistan presenter Zainab Abbas has issued an apology for her social media posts. Abbas says she did not mean to hurt any person's religious sentiments. Earlier this week, the Pakistani presenter left India for personal reasons. This was after an Indian national filed a complaint against Abbas for her comments on a religious group in India. Cricket fever has gripped the Indian city of Ahmedabad ahead of the match between India and Pakistan. The city has seen an influx of thousands of fans for the blockbuster match. Fans are having a difficult time finding hotels and are booking themselves in hospitals by asking for full body checkups and scans. Ahmedabad's Medical Association body has lodged a complaint with district authorities saying beds are being taken up by healthy people